Officially the largest family-owned national nature preserve in the UK, Elmley's spectacular landscape, soul-stirring skies, and breathtaking wildlife provide a truly inspirational escape into nature. Guests can enjoy a stay in a restored 18th century farmhouse, or something more rustic like a cabin, a shepherd's hut, or a bell tent. Elmley offers nature excursions, farm-to-table culinary, wellness programs, and the chance to just sit, relax, and enjoy the beautiful skies and landscapes of southern England. Hello, and welcome to the Glamptuary podcast, where we talk about the experiential outdoor hospitality industry and sustainable lifestyles. I'm your host, Bobby Marsden. In this episode, we find ourselves in the southeast corner of England, and we had the pleasure of sitting down with the husband and wife team who own and operate Elmley National Nature Reserve. Gareth and Georgina have been running Elmley for the past 11 years, handling the duties of a marriage, raising kids, managing a 3,300-acre national nature preserve, and growing a beautiful experiential outdoor hospitality destination. In this episode, we learn about where it all began for Gareth and Georgina, and how their passion for travel led them to a career in outdoor hospitality. They shed some light on some of the challenges that they face and offer some words of encouragement for anyone out there starting a new endeavor. So sit back and relax with your favorite cup of tea and enjoy episode 5 on season 3 of the Glamptuary podcast. Gareth, Georgina, thank you so much for joining me on the Glamptuary podcast.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Look forward to it.
So your website is gorgeous, and that's what drew me in to find you guys. And when I first came on to the website, I saw the words "escape into nature." Georgina, what does that mean for you?
Well, I guess that's what it is. That's what we offer is really very much an escape from people. Most of our visitors are coming from urban settings, and they really just want to get out, leave their lives behind for a few days and be surrounded by the nature all around them.
And Gareth, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think looking at where we are in the southeast of England, it's an incredibly busy place. There's 9 million people within an hour of Elmley. And we've got a dual carriageway, so 4-lane motorway sort of up close to the boundary. But as soon as you're through the gates and you're on our gravel road into the reserve, it really is a completely different place, and you'll very quickly forget what's around you. So we were trying to express that in a one-liner.
Well, it certainly wrapped me in, and I think in today's day and age, with so much noise and social media and just everything that's going on in the world, I think it's so important for people like yourselves to provide this for guests and people to just escape back into nature and connect with themselves, connect with nature, and hopefully come back refreshed. As I was reading about Elmley, I read something interesting that you're the only family-owned and managed nature preserve in the United Kingdom. Why is that? Is that just because other people aren't doing it? Is it hard to become a nature preserve?
So it's the only family-owned and managed national nature reserve. So rather than a nature reserve, it's the National Nature Reserve is the key to that. So they are sites that are designated by the UK's what's called the Natural England, which is the UK's body that looks after spaces of nature. So you do have to have certain levels of importance, and Gareth, you can probably explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess so it's all the technical side of things, but essentially in the UK, very few non-government organisations are permitted to run a really important place for nature. So it's Elmley's nationally designated because it's got nationally important populations of lots of species. And I guess Georgina's father, Philip, was a very proactive person as a farmer, and decided that it shouldn't just be the preserve of NGOs and the government to look after wildlife at scale and at a high level. So he decided to set himself that task. And did lots of hard work in the 80s and 90s to prove that they were responsible and could manage the habitat to the right level. So really passed that test by the early 1990s. And so, yeah, we've been a National Nature Reserve for over 30 years, and it's G and I's turn to carry that on, really.
Well, speaking of both of you, where did you meet? I'm assuming it was not on the nature preserve.
So we, in our previous lives, I was in the British Army, and Georgina was in marketing and PR. And my posting at the time was to the Ministry of Defence, which is a bit like the Pentagon in the US. So I was in central London and largely wearing a suit, but it was a special day to celebrate the armed forces. So I was in uniform, and it happened that Georgina was organising an event at number 10 Downing Street, which is the home of the Prime Minister. And I basically was going with my boss, and fortunately my ticket had been cancelled. I didn't know. And Georgina, organising the party, realised that I'd managed to get into number 10 without the ticket that was needed. So came over to tell me off, and things went from there.
Georgina, Gareth mentioned that your parents, Philip and Corinne, took over Elmley roughly about 40 years ago, worked very hard, turned it into a national nature reserve. So you grew up around Elmley. What was that like?
So we had a wonderful childhood, hanging out, playing. It was great fun.
Now, as a child, were you envisioning this could be something I could work on or work at?
Absolutely not. It was absolutely not. My father, through various sad circumstances, took over the farm when he was very young and wanted to ensure that his children had freedom and opportunities to do our own things, and rather than being tied to it. So definitely not. Wasn't really in my life plan.
And Gareth, so it sounds like you guys met. You're moving around as you're stationed in various places.
Yeah.
And what was it for both of you in your mind that pointed you towards Elmley? And did you have experience with a national nature preserve or running a property of this kind?
Well, the short answer to the last bit is no. Which is a challenge in itself. Look, I think we were of an age. We moved away to an island called Cyprus, which is in the Mediterranean, where I was posted, and I was away a lot. But we loved traveling. We traveled all around the Middle East and Eastern Europe from there, really, in Turkey and whatnot. And I think at the stage of life we're at, sort of to focus on, we've been married a year or two, start to think about families and stuff, and that really focuses attention on what you're doing with your life in terms of career and whatnot. And the army's obviously got certain dangers and risks and sacrifices of time. And so we both thought we might like to change career and do something together and create our own business. Didn't fancy that sort of standard path of, I probably would have gone back to trying to find a job in London, as a suit. And it wouldn't really have suited me. And we were really loved exploring and staying in loads of amazing places off the beaten track in that part of the world. And that with a bit of serendipity and a huge amount of privilege, really, and good luck, to have the opportunity to come back to a place like Elmley, where the land management and the conservation was at a very high level, but a lot of the buildings were sort of derelict and unloved, and there was no real people side of the business. So there was an opportunity there, but it was very much starting from scratch. So the time of our life was just perfect timing, really.
And I think to add to that, I think the slight difference, I guess, from, say, a farmer who's living within it and decides to look outwards and set up a glamping business. We obviously, as Gareth said, we had the huge opportunity and privilege of having a suitable site to do it at. But we very much looked at it, perhaps in a similar way to yourself, Bobby, is that actually we saw it from the market's point of view and thought actually that's something that we would enjoy, and we understood how other people would enjoy it, rather than necessarily looking at starting from the destination. in that way, which I think was allowed us to sort of bring a different viewpoint to it. Obviously, we both knew Elmley well, we both loved it, and we understood that it would be a very special place to bring people, but it was very much the concept of the idea of a business rather than starting from the place itself.
Well, and it sounds like you had a love for travel and a love for experiencing things during your travels, and maybe that was a transition for you to say, we have this beautiful space and we could help create experiences for people coming in there, which I think is wonderful. So speaking of Elmley and experiences, if you were to describe Elmley, Gareth, to people coming in and what they can experience or hope to experience, what are all the various things that you'd want people to know?
I think the main impact of people arriving at Elmley is landscape and sky. We call them soul-stirring skies because they're just vast. It's very flat landscape. Kent and the southeast of England tends to be quite hilly and wooded, and we are very flat and open. It's a grassland. There's a sea on two sides, which is channelized in a narrow channel of the sea called the Swale. So it's also very seasonal though, and so our daily rhythm moves with the tides and the sea coming in and out, and that moves the wildlife. So you're seeing in the spring, autumn and spring, sea of fresh green, quite vivid greens, and little ribbons of water moving, through that sea of grass. And on the coast, you see the sort of the tidal action coming in and out. But you fast forward to winter and it looks more like a giant lake with islands of grass through it, where the water level rises, 50,000 wildfowl in the skies. And it really is wild and spectacular and looks a bit otherworldly, to be honest. Fast forward even further to the summer and it's completely dry. The grasses have turned white and senesced and it's knee-high. It looks like savannah in Africa. So we have really four sides. We have a daily rhythm, whether the tide's in or out. And then we have really 4 seasons of really big change, and each one sort of hits you in a different way. But I guess the sky and the landscape is the thing that carries through all year round. You get a huge sunrise and a huge sunset, and enjoy. And in terms of what people do, the idea is you do very little, and you sit as still as possible, and you just relax in England, have tea, and you just watch everything change in front of your eyes.
It sounds gorgeous. And Georgina, I noticed on the site that there are a number of different types of accommodations that are offered at Elmley. As 18th century restored farmhouse, which looks gorgeous. You have shepherd's huts, which I love staying in. You have bell tents. Was there kind of a plan to add a variety of different accommodations to be based on the seasons that Gareth was talking about? Or what was your thought when you guys were coming up with all the different types of accommodations that Elmley offers?
Yes, you're right. There are quite a few different options, which is lovely, and it's important to explore that. But I think very much what Gareth was saying about the concept of just being able to watch it, that's rooted within it. So whether it's a bell tent, whether it's the beautiful 400-year-old farmhouse, or whether it's one of the cabins or the shepherd's huts, it is very much about looking out and enjoying the landscape, and that's the ethos through from everything from day one, and that's very much the reason that we thought it would work here, and that was about setting it up. It's a very extraordinary, unique landscape, and particularly with the wildlife around it, is to be sort of an hour from London, to have that density of wildlife in such a special habitat is extraordinary. And as Gareth said, the sunrise and the sunsets are spectacular, and you're looking at these absolute miles of essentially wilderness. Going back to what you talked about at the beginning, Bobby, it's that escape into nature, and it's just the ability to sit and look out and watch the sunrise and be transported into very much another world.
I think it's also important to sort of mention that there's 2 ways of doing things, right? There's a slow evolution of developing the site, or there's an imposition of everything all at once. And ours has very much been a gradual build of 11 years. Our last 2 units went in this spring. It's probably where we've got to where we want to go for accommodation. But it's very much been a evolution, hasn't it? Where we've sort of designed a couple of units. Yeah. Okay, what works, what doesn't? Right, the next one will have all the improvements. The next one's got even more improvements. And actually, some of our guests come back and stay in all of them and love the journey through. And that's another angle, which is quite fun.
Gareth, your description of the seasons changing and having the variety of accommodations to also enjoy, you could almost come back seasonally, change accommodations, and have a completely different experience, which is great for business and repeat guests and things like that.
Yeah.
So I mentioned 3,300 acres. You mentioned the space, these views. What is it like to manage a property of that size, especially considering that a portion of it obviously is a national nature preserve?
Yeah, I mean, look, 98% of it is the National Nature Reserve, and 2% is the tourism, right? So our footprint's pretty light on the overall site. But look, when we came to Elmley, our focus was definitely on the tourism side and our development of that, and it was sort of life happened, and why I ended up running the actual nature reserve element as well, because our wonderful reserve manager, who was here at the time, very sadly got a brain tumor and died within 12 months of us being here. So it was very much, while we were setting up, it was very much supporting him through, all the treatments and whatnot, and then sadly to the end of his life. And that was a really poignant moment. It sort of gave you a lot of emotional energy to drive on and get it done right and do it well. And so as you can imagine, it's really busy. There's a lot on. We started off, as a lot of people do in these sort of businesses, where it's very much driven by Georgina and I on the tools, doing the bookings, doing the laundry, doing the food, doing everything actually at a small scale. And as we've grown, we've taken on and grown the team. So we've got a lot of help now, but in the early days, it was pretty full on. It was a life consuming business, not a lifestyle business.
Georgina, what kind of challenges do you face? And is there a division of labor between the two of you? Have you kind of worked out, Gareth, you focus on X, Y, and Z. Georgina, you focus on A, B, and C. Is there a crossover? How does that work for you both?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken this bit of trial and error over the years. And, we've got 3 children at the same time. So it's always tricky. Anyone who's got kids and a job and a business knows that it's difficult. Living on site as well as, has its challenges because you're always working. So yeah, it's a balance. We have a fantastic, as Gareth mentioned, we have a fantastic team now. And it's actually the trickiest thing is learning when to just say, actually, no, someone else can do that better than I can. And to step away. That's one of the biggest things. The probably the other challenge is actually to having time to meet together as the directors. As you probably found from how difficult it was to find a time for setting up this podcast. The reserve has to always take priority. The conservation side of things and managing the land will always take priority, and that will take priority over any of the hospitality things, because it has to. We're dealing with you're dealing with the wildlife, with the habitat, you're dealing with livestock. If there's an emergency, that has to be looked at first. And actually, that it's a huge place. It's 3,300 acres. Actually, getting time, we do divide. Actually, now we've got into quite a good rhythm. Now we've been going for sort of 10 years, and we do operate quite effectively, but in separate channels. So actually, but there are a lot of times that we do need to come together and talk about those knotty problems, and actually carving out that time. Particularly, we've got a fantastic team, but a team that also needs our attention. It's difficult to actually find time to speak about work together, and that's that's a challenge, and a challenge of a growing business, I guess. I think we always have to remember it is part and parcel of what it is. The hospitality wouldn't work without the nature, and that's
the synergies overcome any problems.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what people are coming for, and that's what we're giving them is that nature experience. So it's just slightly just going with the flow.
You mentioned that when people come and experience Elmley, part of what you want them to have time to do is take time and just take it all in. If someone were wanting to experience the nature, venture out from their shepherd's hut or venture out from their cabin or bell tent or whatever accommodation they're staying in, are there opportunities to do that and go experience nature out on the preserve?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got two options really, that people either go and sort of lose themselves with a map and on our footpaths and whatnot, and there's sort of I nearly said 12 kilometers. There's about 9 miles of trails. They can sort of we've designed them quite cleverly or carefully, in that they're not necessarily right in the heart of the wildlife, because it's an open landscape. The birds particularly are very easily disturbed, and in the winter that really causes them issues in terms of wasting energy and stuff. So the conservation side of management is always at the forefront of design, but you can go for a walk, or we've got some really amazingly knowledgeable wildlife guides as well who've joined us over the years. And so we've really matured that from, rather than being when we set up, it was sort of me in the pickup truck and like, yeah, come and join me and I'm going to go check something and I'll tell you about the place while we're driving. It's now, 2-hour guided tours at dusk or dawn, range of really knowledgeable guides and some really, really great wildlife experiences with everything from a tiny little, field vole to a white-tailed eagle. You can do the lot.
Sounds gorgeous. And then, so after someone's trekking around, and then we'll come back. I also read that you guys have a very nice spa, which I like to enjoy when I go vacation. Georgina, what? Tell me a little bit about the spa and the wellness programs that you guys have.
Yeah, spa is perhaps a slightly grand term, but it's so we have a wellness studio. So we with the treatment room within that, and a lovely place for people to relax within it. And as with everything we do, everything's very complementary of each other. So it's just an extension of the experience that we're giving people. So people come here to really relax, to really rejuvenate, and that's something we really see from the experience that people have. Is they're coming up, they're sort of shaking their sort of day-to-day worries out and very much letting nature do its work. And the treatments that we offer, the wellness treatments, are very much just an extension of that. So we work with 2 wonderful therapists who take quite a holistic approach. So we offer very much well-being type of treatments, including facials and rejuvenating massages that the people can go and enjoy.
That's wonderful. And so truly Elmley is an immersive experience where when someone enters your gates, you really want them to stay there and experience it front to back, leave rejuvenated. And that's really kind of the essence of experiential outdoor hospitality is inviting someone in almost to your home. In this case, it is your home. What do you see for the industry kind of as a whole? Experiential outdoor hospitality has a lot of different interpretations of it. And I think it's obviously a trending tourism travel opportunity that people are starting to kind of grasp and take advantage of. But what are your kind of thoughts, Gareth, for where things are and where you hope the industry can go?
Yeah, I mean, probably the industry, particularly obviously globally, has been on a real roller coaster through COVID and whatnot. And in England and the UK, they're leaving the European Union has had a doubling down of that effect. And then the global spikes in price and whatnot. So everyone's in a difficult spot at the moment. And the UK economy has not bounced back as well as it could have, I guess. So I think everyone's feeling that. I guess what we do and we offer and the wider industry in our space is in a good place in terms of the uniqueness of the product. People are feeling they really need that time to de-stress, to stop. Life's not getting slower, is it? The pace of things is increasing, and so what we offer is increasingly special. And I guess in a local issue is like the increase in development and building and more roads and just more people in the southeast of England makes Elmley even more special over time, because it's it's getting increasingly rare. And so, we just got to keep on doing what we do and keep the faith that, the people will still want to do it. But I think hospitality wide in the UK is under pressure, but I think our niche is pretty strong.
And Georgina, if you were able to offer advice to anyone out there that's listening, that's thinking about wanting to get into this type of business, whether it's in the UK or anywhere in the globe, what kinds of things would you want to tell them? Maybe things that you would have wanted to know when you were first starting, or just things that you've learned that you'd like to share?
I think we could probably write a book on that.
Maybe you should.
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah.
Well, I think we've done a lot. We've, as you said, we didn't have a background in hospitality, so we've learned a huge amount along the way. And so there are so many pitfalls and things to things to go into. But I think the key thing is just to enjoy the ride, and actually that fundamentally, you can moan and whinge about tricky guests or TripAdvisor reviews, but actually fundamentally most people are lovely, and it's such a joy to be able to give that kind of, we are so lucky to be able to share this place with people and to see people, people come at really important times of their life, and we're giving them something really special, and just always got to remember that, and just enjoy it really, because what a nice, what a wonderful thing to be able to do.
Well, it sounds like it's a lifestyle choice, something maybe that you thought about growing up on Elmley, and maybe one of the things that might have driven you back, and also with your children, being able to provide that environment for them. Gareth, any words of wisdom that you'd want to bestow on anyone that might be thinking about doing this?
I mean, just got to go for it. We just jumped in. I think if we'd have known everything we knew now, back in the day, might have taken the easy option there. So I think you just got to just go for it. If you really, really, if you know what you've got a great idea, you just got to jump in both feet and just take risk. We take a lot of risk. There's a big leap in the dark. Coming here and doing it, it's not, for Elmley and where we are in the countries, there's not anywhere like it. There's no one had done it before. Not many people believed it could work for various reasons, and actually you just got to back yourself and go for it.
I think those are wonderful words of wisdom, and hopefully someday I get a chance to visit your property and immerse myself in the 3,300 acres. And I'm happy to jump in the truck and drive around with you, Gareth. Georgina, I'll also take advantage of the spa or the wellness treatments. But I think what you guys are doing is wonderful, and especially with all the conservation efforts and whatnot, it's definitely more of that is needed in the world. So thank you for what you do. And hopefully I'll be able to check that bucket list item off when I visit Elmley.
Look forward to it. Thanks for having us, Bobby.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Gareth and Georgina for taking the time to talk with us today and share their wonderful story. Elmley sounds like a beautiful place to experience, which I hope to visit someday. If you're looking to escape to nature in the south of England, you can start at Elmley's website, which is www.elmleynaturereserve.co.uk. That is www.elmleynaturreserve.co.uk. And to follow us on the Glamptuary podcast, you can do so on our official website, which is www.glamptuary.com. That is www.glamptuary.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Amazon, Apple, and Pandora. We're almost to the end of season 3, and we appreciate everyone who has been on this journey with us. We'll see you at the next destination, and until then, be well and namaste.